So now I will discuss about the methods adopted or in practice for trade secret protection. One is, let's say, legal routes. Okay. Then you may consider whether technical routes. Let's thought about. Then management routes. So all the three routes, whether just the protections, protection of what? Informations, whether they will go by, say, along with the legal routes, they will go by others two routes also, just like say when you discussed about the copyright, you know that the technology based protection of the copyright protected work and also law along to protect that technology also. So let's see what are the legal routes for protection of trade secrets with reference to India, other countries specifically. Although you know that TRIPS has suggested, Article 39 of the TRIPS has suggested the country to enact some legislation for say for protection of the trade secret. I want to mention here, India, we don't have any specific legislation for protection of the trade secret till date. Okay. In USA, it is protected. We have a federal legislation, just like Uniform Trade Secret Act. Trade Secret Act. So the Uniform Trade Secret Act is there, a federal legislation, and also they have several state legislation that for regarding the trade secrets also. And Uniform Trade Secret Act has defined the trade secret as similar lines, just like say TRIPS agreement, and they have suggested the what type of remedies in the form of a civil remedies or criminal remedies will be provided in respect of breach of trade secrets. The simplified legislation, if you read the legislation, they refer the definitions clause and the subsequent others part with reference to breach of trade secrets. Okay, so that the situation with reference to the say that international perspective TRIPS, then USA and some other countries also they have legislations. But now we are considering about the India. So this is the USA. Now we are considering about the India. We don't have any specific legislation, I already mentioned, with reference to the protection of trade secret in India. So now what way they will protect the trade secret in India? Just like say we have Contract Act. Okay, Contract Act. There section 25, sorry, section 27. There is a provision, the crux of the provision suggested restraint of trade. So if that you can, and the respective provision you can apply for enforcement of trade secret. So section 27 in respect of Indian Contract Act in the purview of restraint of trade, just like say some restraint of trade. So that can be applicable for enforcement of trade secret. Then we may consider some common law provision. I try to apply the common law provision, just like say unfair trade practices. If you try to link with reference to the breach of trade secret, then just like a unfair advantage, unfair competitions, you try to incorporate within the purview of breach of trade secret, you may apply just like say, I think let's consider a situation. Let's say a company have hired your former employee. Based on that, now they are following after that they are following some unfair trade practices because they extracted some information from that your former employee, and they are attracting the clients, your clients now. Then they are trying to adopt that unfair trade practices. Then you may consider that is unfair competition, unfair trade practices that lead by virtue of trade secret theft or trade secret breach of misappropriation of the trade secret. Then you may follow the common law ideologies of ideology and can enforce. And then also if you try to put, I also try to consider like this way, that criminal part. So there you are considering the civil part, that within the purview of Contract Act or within the purview of common law provisions. But sometimes I try to put in the purview of say even provisions available. If you consider trade secret is an information, in trade secret is information, and information having value, although information having value and so information having value, and try to put that in the form of a property, and you try to put in the theft of property, then I think you can apply Indian penal codes and criminal provisions for protection of the trade secrets. Okay. So, what is just like say the provisions applicable. Similarly, maybe provisions of IT law applicable, just Information Technology Act may be applicable with reference to few elements also. If just like say information related client list, those things also may be considered information within the purview of IT Act. Let's try to do a research on that part. Applicability of the IT Act for protection of the trade secret. The research question mark I have kept it. Okay. So that way, so the trade secret and legal routes for protection of the trade secret in respect of India. So the Contract Act, section 27, how can you restrict the trade with reference to that? Just like say the question lies on that regards. Just like say Mr. X has a sweet shop in a particular market. Now, in that sweet shop, a worker was working. Now, that Mr. Y has also created a sweet shop in the same market. Now, somehow the main worker who was working with say Mr. X has shifted to that second shop. So, in that case, whether he will be restricted to join that sweet shop in the same market, or different way you can create, just like say in company A, Mr. X was working, he was the main architect behind that company. Later on, he has switched over from that company and trying to create a company whose portfolio is similar to that earlier company, whether he will be prevented to establish a company having the similar portfolio in a same jurisdictions or not. So, like this way you can apply the Contract Act there, and also on by virtue of that you may consider the the protection of trade secrets. Okay. So, they are just like say in company perspectives, so just like say these are the legal routes or legal tools available for an organization for protection of the trade secret, not by any specific law, although researchers are suggesting that time has come in India to enact a specific legislation for protection of trade secret. Just like say I have taken few of the materials from this source, just like http linkedin.com. Okay. So, just like say what they are referring, just like different cases they are referring. Salim Javeri, an Indian origin, former employer of pharma company Bristol Myers Squibb, pleaded guilty in 2011 before an US court to for stealing trade secret from the drug manufacturer. So, understood that stealing part. Okay. So, several cases you will get it in respect of India, in respect of breach of trade secret. There some cases they apply the contract act, some cases they try to apply the penal provisions also. So, that the document suggesting that to enact a specific legislations for protection of trade secret in India. Similarly, that document suggested mentioned that Royal Bank of Scotland Group hired its Singapore-based chief currency trader a few years back for sending a email allegedly containing confidential data. So, understood these sorts of things we will get in a business world. Use of you know the Rajat Mehta's incident in US part. So, so that way that business world take information or trade secret as an enormous value. So, these are the situation they are that their trade secret or confidential data may be having the commercial value involved. So, those are the series of incident you will get it with reference to the trade secret violations. Also, similar incidents are there in software company, just like say cases related to that a husband wife working in two competitive companies, some elements of the source code platform or computer related platform where husband is working, wife so disclose that things to the wife, then the issues lies that whether that this lead to the trade secret violations or not. Now issues are coming up, just like one person is shifting one software company to another software company, then how that trade secret part will be protected. That the issues related to that also have been coming over the years, So, that way that so in different situation they try to protect by means of the different laws in India. So, again the lies the issues with reference to the enforceability by laws also, just like how in respect of trade secret related suit, trade secret related suit or suit, just like say if someone files a suit for trade secret breach or misappropriation, then the litigations part, just like whether how sometimes he is fear of disclosing the trade secret, although it is considered as a privileged communication between attorney and clients, just like a attorney client means a company, he wants to disclose the trade secret to the attorney who is fighting for him, that is considered as a privileged communication. In some cases he is fears of the disclosure because he has to prove the facts in the courts that the information breach. So, this is also a very strategically you have to deal with in respect of trade secret related litigations. Okay, trade secret related litigations in the courts specifically. Okay, so that's that way the trade secret is an important parameters in the in respect of legal and litigation part. So these are the legal routes you may thought about for enforcement of the trade secret, and I will try to mention what is also issues are coming up in respect of enforcement, just like say disclosures, disclosure to to attorney. Okay, so disclosure before court, disclosure before court. So these are the issues are also there in respect of litigations of trade secrets. Although this you understood the science wise, scientific method wise, these are not say considered as a privileged communications, not say public public related communications or not. So these are the legal routes. Now the management routes. Say company wise, law is there, but what type of strategy they will adopt for protection of trade secret. So definitely they have what they have employee employer agreement. Okay, so that they have employee employer agreement. In that agreement, they try to create a clause for confidential information, and what is say confidential informations and what just like say related provisions also they created in employee employer contract, employee employer agreement. Also subsequently, along with that employee employer agreement, they suggested the employee also that let us say all employees signing a employee employer agreement. Now few employees are working in a specific platform, then also they suggested and for them to signing a separate agreement, sometimes is called non-disclosure agreement. Non-disclosure agreement. So they have to separately sign a non-disclosure agreement. So if now any breach with reference to that disclosure happen, just like say you are sharing some business, let us say consider you are sharing some business strategy with another company personnel, then also you suggested that company person to sign a non-disclosure agreement specifically first. So then that will not be considered as a public disclosure kinds of thing. And within the company also, if now you want to involve few of your employee to work in a platform which is so confidential, and also within the confidential elements, some of the things like say having commercial value, you may consider that also may involve. So they suggested them to sign a non-disclosure agreements. So the non-disclosure agreement, so a nice way they will define what is confidential information, what lead to the disclosures. If disclosure happens, then what type of so penalty provisions will be applicable to that employee. So that way non-disclosure agreements can be applicable for say enforcement of that trade secret maybe. Then further strategically what they do, they will also conduct say exit interview. Let us say somebody is quitting your organization. Okay, they are quitting your organization. So somehow you want to conduct an exit interview of that. So he is exit interview for that, not exist exit interview of that employee. So that exit interview will give indications of that, where he is going, which platform he is working, all those kinds of situation. Generally suggested that if he is working in a company and joining another company, and which platform he was working, he should not be allowed to work in the same platform. Just like say, I have discussed about a corporate case called Computer Associate versus Atlai Computer. They are lead to the corporate infringement, but these sorts of things may happen based on even trade secret misappropriation. We are considering that is a misappropriation by persons leaving a organization and joining another organization. That also this type of situation may come up. Okay, so now, so that way strategically along with the strategy, along with the legal tool, they are applying the strategy part: exit interview, non-disclosure agreement, employer-employee agreement, then limited disclosure. What do you mean by limited disclosure? Just like so, only few very limited number of people will be allowed to work in the company circle. Let's say in the company circle, just like say some person is joining in a day one, so they will thought about that trust part first. So building trust, whether it is trustworthy or not, then he may be allowed to involve within the company ladders with where the trade secret related things the company have been working. So he may be allowed to involve in that team. So that way, that limited disclosure within the company premises or within the company environment is also essential. And similarly, I told you, when a company try to negotiate with another company, they have to be strategic enough not to disclose some elements of their trade secrets, and also they should initially sign a non-disclosure agreement with that company during the disclosures, during the negotiations, before the negotiations start. So that way they can strategize there. They can thought about protecting the trade secrets. So technical part, management parts, or management or strategical part, strategy part, by strategically also they are protecting the trade secret within that organization premises. Okay. Then whether technical routes, you may thought about what everything I will encode it, that the key, just like say key will be available with few persons only. Just like say, you know that electronic signatures or digital signatures, just generally the key with reference to particular organization provided with only few people. So they can be allowed, they or have the digital signature certificate key, the public key, private key, that part with reference to that. Similarly, they can thought about that type of mechanism, technical means, route to protect, because understood the that for protection measures, people suggested to protect the trade secret, company has to spend a huge amount of money. So based on the strategy, based on the technical means, they have to protect the trade secret. So the cost involved in respect of protection of trade secret, although you understood there is no statutory fee involved in respect of registration and others, I am considering reference to India specifically, but to protect it by means of available provisions in Indian systems, they may require to require huge cost in respect of say management part and other way. Okay, so that part I want to mention here, although there is no specific provisions, but we understood that that's it. They are required a huge investment. Now I will again refer few of the cases that I have taken again, that just like say where an employee comes into a position of secret and confidential information in the normal course of his work and either carelessly or deliberately passes that information to an unauthorized person. The situation I want to refer here, that that the document has suggested, that where an employee come into positions of secret and confidential information that having the business that I referred, all those kinds of things. Okay. So that, and now he carelessly, this part the word, or deliberately, two things situation may come up, just like say he leave that organization and deliberately disclosed that information to that organization to get an edge or to create his position in that organization, that lead to the breach. Then where an unauthorized person such as the new employer inside such an employee to provide him with such confidential information, that may happen sometime. This type of illegal trade practices also adopted in the business circles. Okay, then that also may happen. And where under a license for the use of know-how, a licensee is in breach of a condition either expressed in an agreement or implied from the conduct to maintain secrecy in respect of such know-how, fails to do so. So, these are the situation where also you understood that trade secret breach may happens. That I also refer. This type of situation, this type of practice may prevails in the industry, specifically nowadays we are telling that database type of industries, database can also consider informations, and now all the analytical company they are working on somebody's datas, and the data may be considered databases. Databases can be considered informations. Now, information theft may happen, information breach of information, breach related to that agreement may happens. So, that way that different situation you understood is may prevails in the business circle that lead to the that led to the breach of trade secret. Breach of trade secret. So, now let us summarize the class. Now we have discussed about trade secret protection, specifically why need protection. You know that why, if I asked why need protection, you are able to answer. Why, if I ask second questions now, why need, just like all MNCs are now visibly, US also wants India to enact a specific legislation for trade secret in India also. Why need separate law? Okay. Why it is important for business circle? How, let us say, MNC protect trade secret? Some of the cracks I told you, but some may not be available in the public documents. They may adopt different types of strategies. I referred based on some literature on my presumption, few of those method, maybe few others method you may get it. Okay. So, these are the things we discussed now with reference to the trade secrets. Just one small portions remaining in this part. Next class I will discuss that how to strategize, just like when to patents, when to trade secrets. There I will try to distinguish patents and trade secret and their intermingle between the patents and trade secrets. Okay, so let us close now. Next class we will discuss about patent versus trade secret.